The morning alarm rings, and instead of feeling refreshed, you're already exhausted before your feet hit the floor. Your body feels heavy, your mind foggy, and the thought of facing another day fills you with a peculiar mix of anxiety and apathy. This isn't just tiredness that a good night's sleep can cure. This is something deeper, more pervasive, something that has been building for months or perhaps years. You're experiencing what millions of people worldwide are grappling with: burnout, a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that has become endemic in our modern world. Welcome to Strides to Solutions, the podcast where we tackle life's most pressing challenges with evidence based strategies and compassionate understanding. I'm your host, Esther Adams, and today we're diving deep into one of the most pervasive issues of our time: burnout. Over the next hour, we'll explore not just what burnout is, but how it develops, why it's become so widespread, and most importantly, what we can actually do about it. Whether you're currently in the thick of burnout, supporting someone who is, or simply wanting to protect yourself from this modern epidemic, this episode will provide you with practical tools and insights drawn from the latest research and real world recovery stories. Burnout represents more than simple fatigue or work stress. It's a complex syndrome that emerges when our physiological stress response systems become chronically dysregulated, leaving us depleted of the very resources we need to navigate life's challenges. Recent surveys paint a stark picture of this crisis, with over half of all workers reporting they are experiencing burnout, and that number climbing significantly during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. The increase isn't merely statistical, it represents millions of individuals struggling to maintain their equilibrium in a world that seems to demand ever more while offering ever less in terms of genuine rest and recovery. Understanding burnout requires examining it through multiple lenses: biological, psychological, occupational, and societal. At its core, burnout occurs when prolonged exposure to stress overwhelms our adaptive capacity, leading to a cascade of symptoms that affect every aspect of our functioning. The exhaustion of burnout isn't the satisfying tiredness after a day of meaningful work. It's a bone deep depletion that sleep doesn't remedy, weekends don't restore, and vacations only temporarily mask. The human stress response system, magnificently designed to help us survive acute threats, becomes a liability when constantly activated. When faced with a stressor, our bodies release a cocktail of hormones, including adrenaline and cortisol, preparing us for action by increasing heart rate, elevating blood pressure, and shunting resources to essential survival systems. This response served our ancestors well when facing immediate physical dangers. However, in our modern context of chronic workplace demands, financial pressures, caregiving responsibilities, and societal expectations, this same system can become stuck in overdrive, leading to what researchers call allostatic load, the wear and tear on our bodies from chronic stress activation. The path to burnout often begins subtly. Initially, you might notice increased irritability or difficulty concentrating. Sleep becomes less restorative, even when you get enough hours. You might find yourself becoming cynical about work that once energized you, or feeling emotionally distant from people you care about. These early warning signs are often dismissed as temporary stress or just part of adult life. However, when these symptoms persist and intensify, they signal that your stress response system is becoming dysregulated, setting the stage for full-blown burnout. What makes burnout particularly insidious is how it affects our cognitive and emotional processing. Research has shown that chronic stress impairs the hippocampus, a brain region crucial for memory formation and emotional regulation. Executive functions, our ability to plan, prioritize, and control impulses, become compromised. This cognitive impairment creates a vicious cycle. As burnout progresses, we become less capable of implementing the very strategies that might help us recover, leading to further deterioration. The emotional dimensions of burnout are equally profound. People experiencing burnout often describe feeling emotionally empty, as if they've exhausted their capacity for empathy and connection. This emotional exhaustion isn't a character flaw or moral failing. It's a predictable consequence of chronic stress on our neurobiological systems. The same mechanisms that normally allow us to connect with others and find meaning in our activities become impaired, leaving us feeling isolated and purposeless even when surrounded by people and engaged in previously meaningful work. Understanding burnout also requires examining the contexts that foster it. Workplace factors play a significant role, with certain conditions particularly likely to contribute to burnout. These include excessive workload without adequate resources, lack of control over one's work, insufficient rewards or recognition, breakdown of workplace community, absence of fairness, and conflicts between personal values and job requirements. Each of these factors alone can increase stress, but when multiple factors combine, they create a perfect storm for burnout development. The modern workplace has evolved in ways that exacerbate these risk factors. The erosion of job security, the blurring of boundaries between work and personal life through technology, and the intensification of work demands without corresponding increases in resources or rewards all contribute to a burnout prone environment. The gig economy, while offering flexibility, often lacks the structural supports and community that can buffer against stress. Remote work, accelerated by the pandemic, has eliminated commutes but also erased the boundaries that once helped us mentally transition between work and rest. Beyond the workplace, societal factors contribute significantly to burnout. We live in a culture that glorifies busyness, equating constant productivity with worth and success. Social media amplifies this pressure, presenting curated versions of others' lives that seem to effortlessly balance career success, perfect relationships, and personal fulfillment. The gap between these idealized presentations and our own struggled reality can intensify feelings of inadequacy and drive us to push ourselves even harder, accelerating the burnout cycle. Financial pressures add another layer of stress that can contribute to burnout. Rising costs of living, student debt, healthcare expenses, and economic uncertainty create a backdrop of chronic stress that makes it difficult to step back from overwhelming work demands. Many people feel trapped in burnout inducing situations because they cannot afford to reduce their workload or change careers. This financial bind transforms burnout from a personal challenge into a systemic issue requiring broader societal solutions. The recovery from burnout is neither quick nor simple. Unlike recovering from a physical injury or acute illness, recovering from burnout requires fundamental changes in how we relate to stress, work, and ourselves. The process typically unfolds in phases, beginning with recognition of the crisis, followed by recovery of the stress response system, prevention of relapse, and potentially post traumatic growth, where individuals emerge with greater resilience and clearer priorities. Recognition often comes at a breaking point when the accumulated effects of burnout can no longer be ignored or compensated for. This might manifest as a health crisis, relationship breakdown, or complete inability to function at work. While painful, this crisis can serve as a crucial wake-up call, forcing acknowledgement that current patterns are unsustainable. During this phase, individuals often need support from others to help them see the severity of their situation and begin taking steps toward recovery. The recovery phase requires dramatically reducing exposure to stressors, which may involve taking extended time off work, restructuring responsibilities, or even making major life changes. During this time, the body's stress response systems gradually recalibrate, though this process can take months or even years depending on the severity and duration of the burnout. Sleep patterns slowly normalize, cognitive function begins to improve, and emotional capacity gradually returns. This phase requires patience and self compassion, as pushing for too rapid a return to normal activities can trigger relapse. Prevention strategies become crucial once initial recovery has occurred. This involves developing new ways of relating to stress and implementing protective practices that support ongoing resilience. Regular engagement in restorative activities becomes essential. not as luxury or reward, but as necessary maintenance for psychological and physical health. These activities might include meditation, exercise, time in nature, creative pursuits, or simply periods of genuine rest without productivity pressure. Mindfulness practices have shown particular promise in burnout prevention and recovery. By developing greater awareness of our internal states and stress responses, we can identify early warning signs and implement protective strategies before reaching crisis points. Mindfulness also helps us recognize and challenge the thought patterns that drive us toward burnout, such as perfectionism, inability to say no, or equating self worth with productivity. Through mindful awareness, we can begin to make choices that align with our values and well being rather than simply reacting to external demands. The role of social support in burnout recovery cannot be overstated. Humans are fundamentally social beings, and our connections with others serve as powerful buffers against stress. Support can take many forms: emotional support from those who listen without judgment, instrumental support from those who provide practical help, informational support from those who offer guidance, and appraisal support from those who help us accurately assess our situation and progress. Building and maintaining these support networks requires vulnerability and reciprocity, acknowledging that we all need help sometimes and that seeking support is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. Setting boundaries emerges as a critical skill in preventing burnout recurrence. This involves learning to say no to excessive demands, even when those demands come from people or causes we care about. Boundary setting requires clarity about our values and priorities, recognizing that saying no to one thing allows us to say yes to something else that may be more aligned with our well being and authentic self. The discomfort of setting boundaries often pales in comparison to the devastation of burnout, making this skill essential for long term sustainability. Addressing perfectionism is another crucial aspect of burnout prevention. Perfectionism, with its impossible standards and fear of failure, drives many people toward burnout. The perfectionist's equation of worth with flawless performance creates unsustainable pressure and prevents the rest and recovery necessary for long term functioning. Learning to embrace good enough in appropriate contexts, to view mistakes as learning opportunities rather than catastrophes, and to extend the same compassion to ourselves that we would offer a friend facing similar challenges can significantly reduce burnout risk. The concept of meaning and purpose plays a vital role in both burnout development and recovery. Research has shown that people who spend at least 20% of their work time on activities they find personally meaningful show significantly lower rates of burnout. This doesn't mean the specific activity matters. What's meaningful varies greatly between individuals. Rather, it highlights the protective power of alignment between our daily activities and our deeper values and interests. When we feel that our efforts contribute to something larger than ourselves, we can better tolerate stress and maintain resilience through challenges. Creating a personal mission statement can help maintain this sense of purpose and guide decision making in ways that protect against burnout. This statement articulates our core values, identifies what truly matters to us, and provides a framework for evaluating opportunities and obligations. When faced with decisions about taking on additional responsibilities or pursuing new directions, we can reference this mission statement to ensure our choices align with our authentic priorities rather than external expectations or fears. The relationship between stress mindset and burnout offers another avenue for intervention. Research has shown that people who view stress as potentially enhancing rather than purely debilitating show better adaptation to stressful situations. This doesn't mean denying the real challenges of stress or engaging in toxic positivity. Rather, it involves recognizing that stress can sometimes sharpen our focus, strengthen our relationships as we seek support, and clarify our values and priorities. Developing a more nuanced view of stress, acknowledging both its costs and potential benefits, can help us respond more adaptively to life's inevitable challenges. Physical self-care forms a foundation for burnout, recovery, and prevention. Regular exercise has been shown to reduce stress hormones, improve mood, enhance cognitive function, and provide a healthy outlet for the physical activation that stress produces. The exercise doesn't need to be intense or time-consuming. Even moderate activities like walking can provide significant benefits. What matters is consistency and choosing activities that feel sustainable and enjoyable rather than like another obligation or performance metric. Sleep hygiene becomes particularly crucial in the context of burnout. Chronic stress disrupts sleep, and poor sleep exacerbates stress, creating another vicious cycle. Establishing consistent sleep routines, creating a restful environment, limiting screen exposure before bed, and addressing anxiety that interferes with sleep all contribute to recovery. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night for optimal functioning, yet many people experiencing burnout get far less, either due to time pressures or stress induced insomnia. Nutrition also plays a role in burnout recovery, though it's often overlooked. Chronic stress affects eating patterns, sometimes leading to overconsumption of convenience foods or conversely, loss of appetite. Both patterns can exacerbate burnout symptoms. Maintaining regular meals with adequate nutrition supports both physical and mental functioning. Additionally, certain dietary patterns, such as those rich in omega-3 fatty acids and antioxidants, may help buffer against the inflammatory effects of chronic stress. The role of nature in burnout recovery deserves special attention. Time spent in natural settings has been shown to reduce stress hormones, lower blood pressure, and restore attention capacity. Nature provides a respite from the cognitive demands of modern life, allowing our overtaxed mental resources to recover. Even brief exposures to nature, a walk in a park, tending to houseplants, or watching nature documentaries, can provide some of these benefits. For those dealing with burnout, regular nature contact can be a powerful and accessible recovery tool. Creative expression offers another pathway for burnout recovery. Engaging in creative activities, whether art, music, writing, or crafts, provides an outlet for emotions that may be difficult to express verbally. Creative pursuits also offer experiences of flow, those moments of complete absorption where self consciousness disappears and we reconnect with intrinsic motivation. These experiences can be profoundly restorative for people whose burnout has disconnected them from joy and spontaneity. The concept of leisure requires reconceptualization in the context of burnout prevention. In our productivity obsessed culture, leisure is often seen as earned reward or guilty pleasure rather than essential maintenance. However, regular engagement in enjoyable, non productive activities is crucial for maintaining the balance necessary to prevent burnout. True leisure isn't passive consumption or scrolling through social media. It's active engagement in activities that bring genuine pleasure and restoration. Time management strategies become essential tools in burnout prevention, though they must be applied thoughtfully. The goal isn't to become more efficient at cramming more into already overfull days. Instead, effective time management in the context of burnout prevention involves prioritizing based on values rather than urgency, building in buffer time for unexpected demands, and protecting time for rest and recovery. This might mean disappointing others' expectations or accepting that some tasks will remain undone, choices that can be difficult but necessary for long-term sustainability. The phenomenon of emotional labor, the effort required to manage feelings and expressions to fulfill job requirements, contributes significantly to burnout, particularly in service professions. Constantly suppressing authentic emotions while displaying prescribed ones is exhausting. Recognizing and validating this invisible work, finding safe spaces for authentic expression, and developing strategies for emotional regulation that don't require complete suppression of genuine feelings can help reduce this particular burnout risk factor. Gender considerations in burnout are important to acknowledge. Women often face additional stressors, including wage gaps, caregiving expectations, and workplace discrimination that can increase burnout risk. Men may face different challenges, including cultural pressure to suppress emotional vulnerability that might lead them to seek help. Understanding how burnout manifests differently across genders and addressing gender specific risk factors is crucial for effective prevention and treatment. Cultural factors also influence burnout development and recovery. Different cultures have varying attitudes toward work, rest, help seeking, and emotional expression. What constitutes sustainable work life balance in one culture may be seen as laziness or lack of commitment in another. Effective burnout interventions must be culturally sensitive, acknowledging these differences while still addressing the universal human need for rest, meaning, and connection. The impact of technology on burnout presents unique modern challenges. While technology can increase flexibility and efficiency, it also enables constant connectivity that makes it difficult to psychologically detach from work. The expectation of immediate responses to emails and messages, the blurring of work and personal device use, and the cognitive load of managing multiple digital platforms all contribute to burnout risk. Developing healthy technology boundaries, such as designated offline times, separate devices for work and personal use, and realistic response time expectations, becomes essential for burnout prevention. Organizational approaches to burnout prevention are crucial, as individual efforts alone cannot address systemic factors that contribute to burnout. Workplaces that prioritize employee well being through reasonable workloads, autonomy, recognition, fairness, and alignment with values show lower burnout rates. This requires leadership commitment to viewing employee well being as essential to organizational success rather than a luxury to be sacrificed for short term productivity gains. The economics of burnout make a compelling case for organizational investment in prevention. Burnout leads to increased absenteeism, reduced productivity, higher turnover, increased healthcare costs, and decreased innovation. The costs of replacing burned out employees far exceed the investments required for prevention programs. Yet, many organizations continue to operate in ways that virtually guarantee burnout, suggesting that cultural change is needed alongside economic arguments. Educational institutions also play a role in burnout prevention by teaching stress management, emotional regulation, and self care skills early in life. The competitive academic environment often models and rewards the very behaviors that lead to burnout, prioritizing achievement over well being, glorifying sleep deprivation, and treating self care as weakness. Reforming educational approaches to value balance, teach sustainable work habits, and normalize help seeking could help prevent burnout before it begins. Healthcare systems must also evolve to better address burnout. Currently, burnout often goes unrecognized until it reaches crisis levels, partly because it's not classified as a medical diagnosis in many countries. Training healthcare providers to recognize early burnout signs, developing standardized screening tools, and creating accessible treatment pathways could help catch and address burnout before it becomes severe. This requires viewing burnout as a legitimate health concern, deserving of medical attention rather than a personal weakness or inevitable consequence of modern life. The relationship between burnout and other mental health conditions is complex and important to understand. Burnout can trigger or exacerbate depression, anxiety, and substance use disorders. Conversely, pre existing mental health conditions can increase vulnerability to burnout. This bidirectional relationship means that comprehensive burnout treatment must address co occurring mental health concerns, and mental health treatment should include burnout screening and prevention strategies. Spiritual and existential dimensions of burnout often go unaddressed, but may be crucial for recovery. Burnout can trigger profound questions about meaning, purpose, and values. For some, this existential crisis becomes an opportunity for growth and transformation, leading to clearer priorities and more authentic life choices. Spiritual practices, whether religious or secular, that connect individuals to something larger than themselves can provide resources for navigating this existential dimension of burnout. The concept of post traumatic growth offers hope for those recovering from severe burnout. Some individuals emerge from burnout with increased resilience, clearer values, stronger relationships, and greater appreciation for life. This doesn't minimize the genuine suffering of burnout or suggest that burnout is somehow beneficial. Rather, it acknowledges human capacity for growth through adversity when provided with appropriate support and resources. Collective action presents another approach to addressing burnout, particularly when individual efforts feel insufficient against systemic stressors. Joining with others to advocate for workplace reforms, policy changes, or cultural shifts can transform feelings of helplessness into empowerment. Labor organizing, professional associations, and advocacy groups provide venues for collective action that can address root causes of burnout while building supportive community connections. The role of self compassion in burnout recovery cannot be understated. Many people experiencing burnout are highly self critical, holding themselves to impossible standards while showing endless compassion for others' struggles. Learning to extend the same kindness to ourselves that we would offer a struggling friend can be transformative. Self compassion doesn't mean lowering standards or avoiding responsibility. It means acknowledging our humanity, accepting imperfection, and treating ourselves with kindness even when we fall short of our ideals. Vulnerability emerges as a paradoxical strength in burnout recovery. Admitting that we're struggling, asking for help, and acknowledging our limits requires tremendous courage in a culture that equates vulnerability with weakness. Yet this vulnerability is essential for building authentic connections, receiving support, and creating sustainable life patterns. When we allow ourselves to be seen in our imperfection and struggle, we give others permission to do the same, creating communities of mutual support rather than competitive performance. The importance of play and joy in burnout prevention is often overlooked in our serious, productivity focused culture. Play, activity engaged in for its own sake rather than for external rewards, reconnects us with intrinsic motivation and creativity. Whether through games, humor, spontaneous activities, or creative pursuits, play provides a counterbalance to the goal oriented striving that often drives burnout. Regularly engaging in activities that bring genuine joy, even in small doses, can help maintain the emotional resources necessary for resilience. Intergenerational perspectives on burnout reveal both continuities and changes. While workplace stress has always existed, the specific factors contributing to modern burnout, constant connectivity, economic precarity, social media pressure, and weakened community bonds, create unique challenges for current generations. Learning from older generations' coping strategies while acknowledging the novel stressors facing younger workers can inform more comprehensive approaches to burnout prevention. The global nature of burnout suggests that this isn't simply an individual or even organizational problem, but a symptom of broader systemic issues in how we've structured modern life. Addressing burnout at its roots may require fundamental reconsideration of our economic systems, work structures, and cultural values. While such massive change seems daunting, history shows that major shifts in working conditions and social structures are possible when enough people recognize that current patterns are unsustainable. Environmental factors beyond the workplace contribute to burnout in ways we're only beginning to understand. Noise pollution, air quality, access to green space, commute times, and community resources all influence stress levels and recovery capacity. Urban planning that prioritizes human well being over efficiency, creating walkable communities with accessible nature and gathering spaces, could help reduce burnout risk at a population level. The intersection of burnout with social justice issues reveals how systemic inequalities exacerbate burnout risk for marginalized populations. Discrimination, microaggressions, lack of representation, and additional emotional labor required to navigate hostile environments all increase stress load. Addressing burnout comprehensively requires acknowledging and addressing these systemic factors rather than treating burnout as purely individual phenomenon. Financial literacy and planning play underappreciated roles in burnout prevention. Financial stress is a major contributor to burnout, yet many people lack the knowledge and resources for effective financial planning. Understanding budgeting, building emergency funds, and making informed decisions about spending and saving can reduce financial anxiety and provide more flexibility to make choices that prioritize well being over maximum income. The role of diet culture and body image in burnout deserves attention. The pressure to maintain certain body standards while managing demanding lives adds another layer of stress and self criticism. Diet culture's moralizing of food choices, exercise as punishment rather than enjoyment, and constant body surveillance contribute to the exhaustion and self judgment characteristic of burnout. Developing a more peaceful relationship with food and body, focused on nourishment and well being rather than appearance, can reduce this particular stress source. Seasonal patterns in burnout suggest that our disconnection from natural rhythms contributes to exhaustion. Modern life expects constant productivity regardless of season, ignoring natural fluctuations in energy and mood. Recognizing and honoring these rhythms, allowing for more rest in winter, taking advantage of summer energy, could help prevent the relentless pace that leads to burnout. The impact of burnout extends beyond individuals to affect families and communities. Children of burned out parents may internalize unhealthy work patterns or struggle with parents' emotional unavailability. Partners may feel neglected or bear additional responsibilities. Communities lose the volunteer engagement and social participation that burned out individuals can no longer maintain. Understanding these ripple effects emphasizes that burnout prevention is not selfish, but essential for collective well being. Retirement planning in the context of burnout takes on new dimensions. Many people are too burned out to continue working until traditional retirement age, yet lack financial resources to stop working. Others fear retirement because work has become so central to their identity that they can't imagine life without it. Developing identity and purpose beyond professional roles becomes crucial for both burnout prevention and successful transition to retirement. The role of hobbies in burnout prevention is more complex than simply having interests outside work. Hobbies can become another source of pressure if approached with the same perfectionism and productivity focus that drives workplace burnout. Learning to engage in hobbies for enjoyment rather than achievement, accepting imperfection, and resisting the urge to monetize every skill or interest helps preserve these activities as sources of restoration rather than additional stress. Communication skills play a crucial role in burnout prevention and recovery. Many people experiencing burnout struggle to articulate their needs, set boundaries, or ask for help effectively. Developing assertive communication skills, learning to express emotions constructively, and navigating difficult conversations can reduce interpersonal stress and increase access to support. This includes communicating with ourselves through internal dialogue that's supportive rather than critical. The concept of energy management versus time management offers a useful framework for burnout prevention. Rather than trying to squeeze more into available time, energy management recognizes that we have different types of energy: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, that need to be balanced and renewed. Activities that drain one type of energy might restore another. Understanding our personal energy patterns and planning accordingly can help maintain sustainable rhythms. Grief often accompanies burnout but goes unrecognized. People may grieve lost energy, abandoned dreams, changed relationships, or former versions of themselves. Acknowledging and processing this grief, rather than pushing through it, is essential for recovery. This might involve mourning the loss of who we were before burnout, while also working toward acceptance and rebuilding. The role of routine versus flexibility in burnout recovery varies among individuals. Some find that consistent routines provide structure and reduce decision fatigue, supporting recovery. Others find rigid routines stifling and need flexibility to respond to varying energy levels and needs. Understanding our personal preferences and needs, rather than following prescriptive advice, helps develop sustainable recovery patterns. Travel and burnout have a complex relationship. While vacations can provide temporary relief, the pressure to have perfect trips, the stress of planning and travel itself, and the accumulated work awaiting return can actually increase stress. Learning to travel in ways that genuinely restore, perhaps choosing rest over sightseeing or staying closer to home, can make breaks more effective for burnout recovery. The impact of caregiving responsibilities on burnout risk is significant and often underappreciated. Caring for children, aging parents, or family members with disabilities adds substantial physical, emotional, and financial stress. The sandwich generation caring for both children and parents faces particular burnout risk. Recognizing caregiving as work, accessing support resources, and practicing self care without guilt are essential for caregiver burnout prevention. Professional development and burnout intersect in complex ways. While learning new skills can increase engagement and open opportunities, the pressure for constant upskilling and credential accumulation can contribute to burnout. Finding balance between growth and sustainability, choosing development opportunities aligned with genuine interests rather than external expectations, and recognizing that not every opportunity needs to be pursued helps maintain healthy professional growth without burnout. The role of comparison in burnout, amplified by social media, creates additional pressure. Comparing our inside experience to others' curated external presentations inevitably leads to feelings of inadequacy. Developing media literacy, limiting social media exposure, and practicing gratitude for our own journey rather than constantly measuring against others can reduce this particular burnout risk factor. Humor and laughter provide underutilized resources for burnout prevention and recovery. Laughter reduces stress hormones, increases endorphins, and provides momentary relief from serious concerns. Finding appropriate ways to incorporate humor into daily life, whether through comedy, playful interactions, or simply not taking ourselves too seriously, can help maintain perspective and emotional balance. The concept of micro recovery suggests that brief moments of restoration throughout the day can help prevent stress accumulation that leads to burnout. These might include short walks, breathing exercises, stretching, brief social connections, or moments of mindfulness. While not replacing need for longer recovery periods, these micro breaks can help maintain equilibrium during demanding periods. Identity formation and burnout are closely linked, particularly for young adults entering demanding careers. When professional identity becomes overly central to self concept, any threat to career success feels like existential threat. Developing multifaceted identity that includes but isn't limited to professional roles provides resilience against burnout and more flexibility in making life changes when needed. The role of mentorship in burnout prevention extends beyond professional guidance. Good mentors can help mentees recognize early burnout signs, maintain perspective, set appropriate boundaries, and navigate workplace challenges while maintaining well being. Conversely, toxic mentorship relationships can accelerate burnout through excessive demands, poor modeling, or undermining of self care efforts. Choosing mentors who model sustainable success rather than burnout inducing patterns is crucial. Housing and living situations significantly impact burnout risk. Long commutes, inadequate living space, noisy environments, or unstable housing create chronic stress that depletes resources needed for other life demands. While housing choices are often constrained by economics, recognizing how living situations affect well being and making whatever improvements are possible, even small ones like creating a calm corner in a chaotic space, can help reduce overall stress load. The relationship between creativity and burnout is bidirectional. Burnout depletes creative capacity, while creative expression can help prevent and heal from burnout. Many people abandon creative pursuits when stressed, viewing them as luxuries they can't afford. However, maintaining creative outlets, even in small ways, helps preserve the cognitive flexibility and emotional expression necessary for resilience. Decision fatigue contributes significantly to burnout, particularly in our choice rich environment. The mental energy required for constant decision making, from minor daily choices to major life decisions, can be exhausting. Strategies for reducing decision fatigue, such as limiting options, establishing routines for recurring decisions, and accepting good enough choices, can preserve cognitive resources for what truly matters. The impact of chronic pain and health conditions on burnout risk is substantial. Managing health conditions requires significant physical, emotional, and often financial resources, reducing capacity for other stressors. The interaction between chronic conditions and burnout can create vicious cycles where each exacerbates the other. Comprehensive burnout prevention must account for health status and provide additional support for those managing chronic conditions. Generational trauma and burnout intersect in ways we're beginning to understand. Inherited patterns of overwork, difficulty with rest, or belief that worth comes from productivity can increase burnout vulnerability. Recognizing and breaking these intergenerational patterns requires conscious effort and often professional support, but can prevent passing burnout prone patterns to the next generation. The role of pets and animal companionship in burnout recovery offers unique benefits. Animals provide unconditional acceptance, encourage routine and physical activity, and offer stress reducing companionship. The responsibility of pet care can provide purpose during difficult times, while their presence offers comfort without the complex dynamics of human relationships. Weather and climate affect burnout in underrecognized ways. Seasonal affective patterns, extreme temperatures, and climate change anxiety all contribute to stress load. While we cannot control weather, recognizing its impact and adapting accordingly, whether through light therapy, appropriate clothing, or adjusted expectations during difficult seasons, can help manage this stress source. The concept of digital burnout has emerged as technology pervades every aspect of life. Beyond work related technology stress, the cognitive load of managing multiple platforms, information overload, and pressure for digital presence creates its own exhaustion. Regular digital detoxes, intentional technology use, and maintaining non digital skills and hobbies become essential for prevention. Food culture and cooking relate to burnout in complex ways. While cooking can be creative and nourishing, the pressure to prepare elaborate, healthy meals while managing demanding schedules can become another stress source. Finding sustainable approaches to feeding ourselves, whether through batch cooking, simple meals, or strategic use of convenience options without guilt, helps prevent food preparation from contributing to burnout. The role of forgiveness in burnout recovery, both self forgiveness and forgiving others, facilitates healing. Holding on to resentment, whether toward ourselves for perceived failures or others for contributing to our burnout, maintains stress activation. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting harmful behavior or avoiding accountability. It means releasing the emotional burden that perpetuates suffering. Transportation and commuting significantly impact burnout risk. Long, stressful commutes deplete energy before work even begins, while car dependent communities limit options for stress reducing active transportation. Where possible, negotiating remote work, moving closer to work, or finding ways to make commutes more restorative can significantly reduce daily stress accumulation. Noise pollution contributes to burnout in ways often overlooked. Chronic noise exposure increases stress hormones, disrupts sleep, and impairs concentration. Creating quiet spaces, using noise canceling devices, or advocating for noise reduction in communities can help protect against this environmental stressor. The role of rituals and traditions in burnout prevention provides structure and meaning that can buffer against stress. Regular rituals, whether daily meditation, weekly Sabbath, or seasonal celebrations create rhythm and restoration in life. Creating personal or family traditions that prioritize connection and renewal helps maintain balance even during stressful periods. Learning styles and burnout risk may be connected. Educational and workplace environments that don't accommodate diverse learning and working styles can create chronic stress for those forced to operate outside their natural preferences. Understanding personal learning and working styles and, where possible, adapting environments accordingly can reduce unnecessary stress. The impact of air quality and environmental toxins on burnout is gaining recognition. Poor air quality affects cognitive function, mood, and energy levels, potentially exacerbating burnout symptoms. While individual control over air quality is limited, using air purifiers, choosing less polluted routes for exercise, and advocating for environmental improvements can help. Friendship patterns and burnout show important connections. Quality friendships provide emotional support and stress relief, but maintaining friendships while burned out can feel impossible. The resulting isolation exacerbates burnout symptoms. Prioritizing even brief, low effort connections with friends and accepting support without feeling obligated to reciprocate equally during recovery periods helps maintain these crucial relationships. The relationship between burnout and addiction is complex and concerning. Some people turn to substances or behaviors to cope with burnout symptoms, potentially developing dependencies. Others may experience behavioral addictions to work itself. Addressing burnout early and developing healthy coping strategies is crucial for addiction prevention, while those in recovery may need additional support to prevent burnout from triggering relapse. Sexual health and intimacy are often affected by burnout but rarely discussed. Burnout can decrease libido, affect sexual function, and strain intimate relationships. Partners may feel rejected or confused by changes in intimacy. Open communication about burnout's effects on sexuality and finding non demanding ways to maintain physical connection can help preserve relationships during recovery. The impact of burnout on parenting creates particular challenges and guilt. Burned out parents may struggle with patience, presence, and energy for children's needs. Children may internalize parents' stress or develop their own anxiety. Seeking support, adjusting expectations, and explaining age appropriately to children what's happening can help minimize negative impacts while modeling healthy stress management. Immigration and cultural adjustment can increase burnout vulnerability. Navigating new systems, language barriers, discrimination, and loss of support networks while maintaining employment creates enormous stress. Culturally sensitive burnout prevention must acknowledge these additional stressors and provide appropriate support for immigrant populations. Academic burnout affects students at all levels, but is often dismissed as normal academic stress. The competitive academic environment, financial pressures, and uncertain job prospects create perfect conditions for burnout. Recognizing academic burnout as legitimate, providing mental health resources, and reforming educational approaches that prioritize well being alongside achievement could help prevent lifetime patterns of burnout. The role of news consumption in burnout has become increasingly relevant. Constant exposure to negative news, especially through phone notifications and social media, maintains stress activation. While staying informed is important, setting boundaries on news consumption, choosing specific times for news updates, and balancing negative news with positive or neutral content can help prevent news related stress accumulation. Body awareness and burnout recovery are intimately connected. Chronic stress disconnects us from body signals, making it harder to recognize needs for rest, food, or movement. Practices that increase body awareness, yoga, body scanning, mindful movement, help restore this connection and improve ability to respond to physical needs before they become critical. The relationship between burnout and chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and other contested illnesses deserves attention. While distinct conditions, they share features with burnout and may have overlapping causes or trigger each other. People with these conditions may face additional challenges in burnout recovery and need specialized support approaches. Fashion and appearance pressures can contribute to burnout, particularly for women and people in appearance focused industries. The time, money, and mental energy required to maintain professional appearance standards adds to daily stress. Challenging appearance expectations, simplifying routines, and prioritizing comfort over convention where possible can reduce this stress source. The impact of childhood experiences on adult burnout vulnerability is significant. Early exposure to chronic stress, trauma, or family patterns of overwork can predispose individuals to burnout. Understanding these connections through therapy or self reflection can help identify and change deeply rooted patterns that contribute to burnout susceptibility. Language and communication barriers can exacerbate burnout, particularly in multilingual workplaces or for non native speakers. The additional cognitive load of operating in a non native language, potential miscommunications, and discrimination based on language abilities create extra stress. Providing language support and creating inclusive communication environments can help reduce this burnout risk factor. The role of physical workspace in burnout is often underestimated. Poor ergonomics, lack of natural light, inadequate temperature control, and open office designs that prevent concentration all contribute to stress. While not everyone can control their workspace, making whatever improvements are possible, bringing plants, using ergonomic accessories, or negotiating for quieter work areas can help reduce environmental stressors. Volunteer work and burnout have a complex relationship. While volunteering can provide meaning and community, overcommitment to volunteer activities can contribute to burnout, particularly for people in helping professions who continue giving during non work hours. Setting boundaries on volunteer commitments and ensuring they remain energizing rather than draining is essential for sustainable community engagement. The impact of political climate on burnout has become increasingly apparent. Political polarization, concern about societal issues, and feeling powerless to affect change contribute to chronic stress. Balancing civic engagement with personal well being, choosing sustainable forms of activism, and taking breaks from political news when needed helps prevent political burnout while remaining engaged citizens. Religious and spiritual communities can both prevent and contribute to burnout. While these communities can provide support, meaning, and stress reducing practices, they can also create pressure through expectations, volunteer demands, or guilt. Finding communities that support holistic well being rather than demanding constant service and sacrifice is crucial for spiritual seekers vulnerable to burnout. The relationship between burnout and eating patterns deserves careful attention. Stress affects appetite, food choices, and eating behaviors in complex ways. Some people overeat for comfort, others lose appetite entirely, and many develop disordered eating patterns. Approaching food with self compassion, focusing on nourishment over perfection, and seeking help if eating patterns become concerning supports recovery without adding food guilt to existing stress. Geographic mobility and burnout intersect in important ways. Frequent moves for work, military service, or other reasons disrupt support networks and require constant adaptation. The stress of repeatedly establishing new relationships, navigating new systems, and maintaining long distance connections can contribute to burnout. Building portable support systems and maintaining continuity where possible helps manage mobility related stress. The impact of shift work and irregular schedules on burnout is profound. Disrupted circadian rhythms, difficulty maintaining social connections, and challenges with family responsibilities create unique stressors for shift workers. Industries relying on shift work need specialized burnout prevention strategies that account for these additional challenges. Aging and burnout present unique considerations. Older workers may face age discrimination, pressure to keep up with technological changes, and concerns about retirement security that increase burnout risk. Simultaneously, accumulated wisdom and perspective might provide some protection against burnout. Addressing ageism and providing age appropriate support helps prevent late career burnout. The role of continuing education in burnout varies by context. While learning new skills can reinvigorate career interest, pressure for constant credentialing and the stress of balancing education with work and life responsibilities can accelerate burnout. Choosing education that genuinely interests rather than merely impresses, and accepting that not every learning opportunity needs formal credentialing helps maintain balance. Weather extremes and natural disasters create acute stress that can trigger or worsen burnout. Climate change increases exposure to these events, adding to baseline stress levels. Building resilience through emergency preparedness, community connections, and mental health resources helps manage disaster related stress that might otherwise overwhelm existing coping capacity. The relationship between burnout and chronic illness is bidirectional and complex. Burnout can trigger or worsen chronic conditions through immune suppression and inflammation, while managing chronic illness depletes resources needed for other life demands. Integrated healthcare addressing both physical and mental health, workplace accommodations, and realistic expectations help prevent this destructive cycle. Public health perspectives on burnout emphasize prevention over treatment. Just as public health addresses infectious diseases through sanitation and vaccination rather than only treating illness, addressing burnout requires systemic changes to prevent occurrence rather than only helping individuals recover. This includes policy changes, workplace reforms, and cultural shifts that prioritize human well being. The economics of burnout extend beyond individual and organizational costs to societal impact. Healthcare costs, lost productivity, and reduced innovation from burned out populations affect economic competitiveness and quality of life. Investing in burnout prevention through policy, infrastructure, and cultural change could yield significant economic returns while improving population well being. International perspectives on burnout reveal both universal patterns and cultural variations. While burnout appears globally, its manifestations, contributing factors, and acceptable responses vary by culture. Learning from cultures with lower burnout rates, often those prioritizing community, rest, and meaning over individual achievement, could inform prevention strategies in high burnout societies. Future directions in burnout research and intervention show promise. Advances in neuroscience help us understand burnout's brain impacts and recovery processes. Technology, while contributing to burnout, also offers tools for monitoring stress and delivering interventions. Personalized medicine approaches might identify individual burnout vulnerability and optimal interventions. These developments offer hope for more effective prevention and treatment. The path forward requires acknowledging that burnout is not inevitable or acceptable as the price of modern life. While individual strategies for prevention and recovery are important, addressing burnout comprehensively requires systemic change. This includes reforming workplace practices, strengthening social safety nets, addressing inequality, and shifting cultural values from endless growth and productivity towards sustainability and well being. Recovery from burnout is possible, though the journey is neither quick nor easy. It requires patience, self compassion, and often fundamental life changes. Many people discover that burnout, while painful, catalyzes positive transformation. They emerge with clearer values, stronger boundaries, more authentic relationships, and greater appreciation for balance and well being. This doesn't minimize burnout's genuine suffering or suggest it's somehow beneficial. Rather, it acknowledges human resilience and capacity for growth when provided appropriate support and resources. The ultimate goal is not simply recovering from burnout, but creating lives and societies where burnout is rare. This means structuring work in sustainable ways, strengthening communities, ensuring economic security, and valuing human well being alongside achievement. It means teaching children healthy relationships with work and rest from early ages. It means recognizing that our worth as human beings is not determined by our productivity or achievements, but is inherent and unconditional. As we face mounting global challenges, climate change, political instability, economic uncertainty, preventing burnout becomes even more crucial. We need resilient, creative, engaged populations to address these challenges, not exhausted, cynical, depleted ones. Investing in burnout prevention is investing in our collective capacity to create better futures. The conversation about burnout must continue evolving as our understanding deepens and new challenges emerge. What worked for preventing burnout in previous generations may not suffice for current realities. We need ongoing research, open dialogue, and willingness to challenge systems and beliefs that perpetuate burnout. Most importantly, we need to support each other in creating more sustainable, meaningful, and joyful ways of living. Thank you for joining me today on Strides to Solutions. If you're currently experiencing burnout, I want you to know that what you're feeling is real, valid, and not a sign of weakness or failure. Recovery is possible, though it requires patience, self compassion, and often significant changes to how we structure our lives. Remember that seeking help, whether from healthcare providers, therapists, or trusted friends, is a sign of wisdom, not defeat. For those supporting someone through burnout, your presence and understanding matter more than you might realize. Sometimes the most helpful thing you can do is simply listen without trying to fix, and to gently encourage professional support when needed. If today's conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to share this episode with someone who might benefit from it. Burnout thrives in isolation and shame, but together we can create communities that prioritize sustainable well being over unsustainable productivity. This is Esther Adams, reminding you that every journey begins with a single stride. Take care of yourselves and each other,